The sixth court session. First tragic scene. Attempts of the defense. Chief Justice. Court in order. The defense team, are you ready to rebut the evidences which the prosecution presented in this previous session? Defense. Yes, Your Honor. Chief Justice. Then please proceed. Defense. Your Honor, respected judges and jurors, we do not believe these letters are historical documents which the prosecutor presented, but at the same time, we do not confirm its truthfulness. At the end, they are just narrations and they are passed on from one historian to another. So the presence of these same narrations is different books does not mean that they are true, since these books were written in different times and ages, and the writers have copied these narrations from one to another without verifying its truthfulness and authenticity. Therefore, I request the judges and jurors to keep that in consideration and not to take these documents as 100% correct. Even the writers of these books cannot assert the truthfulness and the validity of these letters, messages, or statements, such that they be used as evidence to support the charges without reasonable doubts. By presenting these documents as evidence, the prosecutor is ignoring the reality of the situation and the circumstances during these events. He disregards the stress and pressure placed on many of those who carry the responsibility, and this is apparent in some of their messages and statements. Factors like nervous reaction, fear, anger, and instigation may play a big role in writing these letters, assuming that they are true. Therefore, we cannot rely on them very much, and we should view them in light for these circumstances and effects. This is very clear in the matter of mutilation of the dead bodies, for it was a result of nervous reaction from the second defendant. It was a personal act initiated by him, and not an order from the Caliph Yazid ibn Muawiyah, but it surely doesn't reflect to represent the religion of Islam. As the prosecutor mentioned, Islam does not approve mutilation of dead bodies, and this act goes against the teaching and principles of the religion and the tradition of the Holy Prophet. If these narrations are true, then it was a big mistake, but we do not know whether this means this matter really happened or it was from this exaggeration and fabrication of the writers. So long as there is doubt, then it should be interpreted in favor of the defendant. The doubt in this matter is possible, logical, and reasonable. I will now hand it over to my colleague, the lawyer representing the third defendant. Lawyer of fourth defendant, Shimar ibn Dhiljawshan.
Your Honor, respected judges and jurors, my client, the fourth defendant, was not the governor of Al-Kufa, nor was he the commander of the army, nor was he the ruler of the state caliph. He did not hold any position in the Islamic State, and he was only an intermediate who simply shared his opinion. He did not force his opinion on anyone, so there is no responsibility on him. At the end, he was only a soldier who simply carried out the orders. Thank you.
Chief Justice. Mr. Prosecutor, would you like to respond to the defense? Prosecutor. Yes, Your Honor. The defense representative wants to doubt all the historical references which stands as witnesses in front of you, while they are the same sources which they themselves approved and acknowledged its authenticity before. By doubting these sources, he is by the same token doubting all its writers and insinuating that they wrote carelessly and propagated narrations which they did not verify its authenticity. Not only that, but they also copy from each other without any investigation or searching. Is this the opinion of the defense regarding those who wrote these books? While they are all very well-known authors in the Islamic library, and most of them wrote other famous books in areas like jurisprudence, narration, hadith, Rijal, science of narrators, usul, foundations,
and Furu branches. Does the defense team also doubt their other books which many laws of Islamic societies were built on? Does the defense doubt these laws too? Ladies and gentlemen, surely any religion and all of history was built on books written by witnesses and historians. If we doubted all of them, then there will be no basis for any religion and all of human history. In such case, we will not be sure whether Jesus was really the Messiah, or whether the story of Moses and Pharaoh was really truth or fantasy. We will doubt whether Prophet Abraham, Joseph, and David really existed or were imaginary characters, or were historical figures such as Napoleon, Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Neron, and Bismarck were fake personalities or real. Now, is that what the defense wants to convince us with and want to defend their case through doubting your history and religion, even your present and future? Indeed, if historical evidence came from multiple different sources and pointed consistently to one direction, then without a doubt it is qualified to be taken as valid evidence for conviction. Many people have relied on that logical premise in past civil and criminal cases. As for the talk about nervous reaction, tension, and emotional responses, etc., these issues do not justify committing crimes on such great scale against children, women, and elderly in cold blood. Such excuses may be used to justify unintentional actions like breaking something or causing a car accident or manslaughter. As for using this pretext to justify war crimes, crimes against humanity, and mass murder, that is certainly unacceptable. Otherwise, anyone can justify killing thousands of people due to personal mood change resulting from stress. That is clear insanity, which cannot be justified by any logic. As for defending the third defendant, Omar ibn Saad, by claiming that he was only a commander obeying the orders of his master, we respond by saying that the third defendant had an opportunity to relieve himself and resign from the commandership of that army. The second defendant, the governor, allowed him to excuse himself from the post in exchange for abandoning the governorship of Al-Ray state. But Ibn Sa'd insisted out of his ambitions to take commandership of the army. Hence, the third defendant became a completely responsible partner and direct participant to all what has happened from war crimes and mass murder in Karbala. The third defendant became a completely responsible partner and direct participant to all what has happened from war crimes and mass murder in Karbala. As for defending the fourth defendant, Shimr ibn Dhiljawshan, that he only shared his opinion and didn't force anyone to accept it, it is a poor argument because the fourth defendant adamantly sought and exerted efforts to fail the negotiation attempts for a peaceful resolution as we saw earlier. Furthermore, the fourth defendant presented himself to Ibn Ziyad to be a replacement for the third defendant, Ibn Sa'd. Al-Shimr was ready to accept the commandership of the battle if Ibn Sa'd chose to resign from his post. Therefore, he is completely responsible for what has happened because if Al-Shimr took the leadership instead of Ibn Sa'd, he would not have hesitated to commit what Ibn Sa'd has committed and maybe even more. In fact, his action encouraged the second defendant, Ibn Ziyad, to stick to his decision to fight Al-Hussein and get rid of him, as he now has the substitute, who is ready and committed for a bloody confrontation with the civilian caravan of Al-Hussein, peace be upon him. Also, it encourages the third defendant to stick to his post when he realized that there are others who are ready to carry out the job of killing Al-Hussein if he himself failed to do so. When Ibn Sa'd realized that the fight will surely happen with or without him, he was determined to stick to his post as a commander so that he may reap the materialistic fruits instead of others. Hence, the role of the fourth defendant, Shimr ibn Dhiljawshan, in this matter was a very critical and important one, and he is totally responsible of what has happened in Karbala. We will see shortly his direct role in committing the crimes during the massacre against women, children, and shelters, as well as mutilating the dead bodies and the maltreatment of the captives. We will elaborate on that when we will continue presenting our evidence. Thank you, Your Honor. Chief Justice. Court will now take a 10 minutes recess and shall resume afterwards. Court is dismissed.
Second tragic scene. Before the battle. Chief Justice. Court is in session after recess. The defense, would you like to discuss what the prosecution presented before recess? Defense.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Chief Justice. Mr. Prosecutor, you may then proceed with the presentation of your evidence. Prosecutor. Al-Hussein, peace and blessings upon him, came to realize that the confrontation and massacre was inevitable to get rid of him, so that the totalitarian regime can be free without any opposition to the first defendant and his assistants. He saw that it is his responsibility to offer his household, supporters, and companions the option to retreat, and not to subject their lives to danger or to leave him to face his enemies alone. So he gathered them the day before the battle and said to them, "Praise be to you, O Lord, for teaching us the Quran, inspiring us the science of jurisprudence and religion, and honoring us by being the closest of kin to your Prophet. You blessed us with ears, eyes, and hearts, so make us among those who are thankful. Then after, I do not know companions better than you, nor do I know a household better than my household. May Allah reward you all dearly. Those people do not target anyone except me. If they arrest and kill me, they will not go after you. Darkness of night has come, so go ahead and escape. Each man of you can accompany one of my household and leave in the middle of the night, and leave me to face those people." Here, Al-Hussein, peace be upon him, presents to us a rare human example which clearly indicates the extent of oppression and injustice which a great personality like him suffered. Now, is there any person who would ask him, his few companions and supporters, to leave him and escape for their lives so that he alone may face 30,000 fighters? Ask from his companions and supporters to leave him and escape for their lives so that he alone may face 30,000 fighters? Certainly not. But this was Al-Hussein. Furthermore, through his words, he confirms to us that he was the one being targeted behind the massacre of Karbala. This reminds us once again of how it all started when the first defendant issued the death sentence against Al-Hussein. As soon as he became the caliph, he tried to execute it in Medina, then in Mecca, and here he is recruiting 30,000 men to carry out that mission which he had failed to accomplish in Medina and Mecca. All of the brothers, family members, and companions of Al-Hussein refused to abandon or desert Al-Hussein. Rather, they insisted to stay with him and stand beside him till their last breath. Despite the suffering of thirst, the heat of the sun, and the lack of compatibility in the number of fighters, Burair ibn Khudair, who was an ascetic sheikh, elderly man, and a worshipper among the companions of Al-Hussein, tried a last attempt with the third defendant, Ibn Sa'd, to convince him not to fight Al-Hussein. However, the third defendant responded to him and said, "By Allah, O Burair, I know with certainty that all those who fight them and seize their rights," meaning Al-Hussein and his household, "are definitely in hellfire. But O Burair, are you suggesting that I abandon the governorship of Al-Ray so that the others take it? No, by God, my ego refuses to respond to that. I request that this statement be included to the record against the third defendant. To him, the matter is not simply a military commander who obeys the orders of his supreme commander. No, it is all about a materialistic reward which, out of greed, he is looking to gain, even if the prize was shedding the blood of the innocent in a small civilian caravan which includes women, children, elderly, infants, and sick persons. It is as if he is a hired killer who takes the prize in exchange for carrying out a heinous crime. What excuse does he have for his actions? Subsequently, Habib ibn Mudahir and Zuhair ibn al-Kain, who were among the companions of al-Hussein, addressed the companions of Umar ibn Sa'd and called them for unity and peace, but without any luck. For the ears do not hear and the hearts do not recognize. Then al-Hussein and his companions spent their last night while engaged in continuous prayers and supplication to Allah in preparation for their last decisive day. When it was the morning of 10th of Muharram, year 61 AH, al-Hussein and his companions prayed in congregation, and then he rode his horse and proceeded forward. The opposing army, which consists of about 30,000 men, approached the camp of al-Hussein. Al-Hussein then said to his companions, Burair ibn Khudair, "Go ahead and speak to the people of Burair and advise them." So Burair proceeded towards the opposing army and said to them, "O people, fear Allah, for the whole family of Muhammad is before you. They are his progeny, his household, his daughters, and his women. So go ahead and tell me what you want to do with them." So they answered him, "We want to hand them over to the governor, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, so he can make his decision regarding them." Burair answered, "Are you not satisfied that they returned back to the place which they came from? Woe be to you, O people of Al-Kufa! Did you forget your letters which you sent to Al-Hussein, and your promise to him? Surely Allah is enough of a witness. What is wrong with you? You invited the household of your prophet and claimed that you would sacrifice yourself for them, but when they came to you, you turned them over to Ubaydullah and prevent them from accessing the water of the Euphrates River, which is publicly open for all people, even dogs and pigs. Shame on you for your maltreatment of the progeny of Muhammad." The opposing army started to shoot arrows at him, so Burair retreated. Al-Hussein stepped forward and stood in front of the opposing army. Then he gazed upon their ranks and rows, which looked like waves, and he addressed them, saying, "Praise be to Allah, who created the life of this world and made its destination perish and destruction. It keeps changing the condition of its people. Surely he who gets deceived by it is the haughty, and he who falls in its mischief is the miserable. So do not be deceived by the life of this world, for it lets down those who depend on it, and it faults those who are greedy for it. I see that you have collectively joined together in a matter that brings the wrath of Allah upon you. Consequently, he has turned his face away from you and made his anger permissible upon you. He withheld his mercy from you. Surely the best of God is our God, and the worst of servants are you. You agreed to obey, and you believed in the messenger, Muhammad. Then you marched out to kill his progeny? The Satan, devil, has overtaken you and made you forget the remembrance of Allah. So woe be to you and to your aim. To Allah we belong, and to him is our return. Those are a group of people who have disbelieved after having faith, so doom be on the unjust people. Fear Allah, your Lord, and do not kill me, for it is not permissible for you to kill me or to violate my sanctity. I am the son of your Prophet's daughter, and my grandmother is Khadija, the wife of your Prophet. You must have heard the saying of your Prophet Muhammad, Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein are the master of the youth of the people of paradise. If you attest to the veracity of what I say and it is the truth, by Allah, I have never lied, as I knew that Allah despises the liars. And if you believe me, there are companions of Muhammad among you. So ask them about that. Do you have any doubt that I am the son of your prophet's daughter? By Allah, there is no any grandson of a prophet in all of the Easts and all of the Wests except me. Woe be to you! Are you after me because I killed one of you? Or because of money I have confiscated? Or an eye for an eye due to wounds I have caused? Nobody answered him, and they kept silent. Then he said to them, By Allah, I will never give up to you like a humiliated one, nor will I escape like slaves. O servants of Allah, I seek refuge to my God and your God, lest you stone me. And I seek refuge to my God and your God from every arrogant person who does not believe in the day of reckoning. As you see, ladies and gentlemen, Al-Hussein tried his best to advise the people and avoid confrontation and conflict. First, he orders his companions to preach them, and most of his companions were among the worshippers of Al-Kufa, who were known for their piety and honesty and were very popular in the army of Ibn Sa'd. Burair ibn Khudair, Habib ibn Mazahir, Zuhair ibn al-Kain, and Muslim ibn Awsaja all addressed them, but the people has closed their ears. Then Al-Hussein addressed the opposing army and reminded them of their religion and the position of the Prophet. He reminded them of his close kinship to the Prophet of Islam, warned them of the punishment and wrath of Allah. Then he questioned them on what basis and according to what law they wanted to kill him. He did not kill anyone, nor did he harm anyone, nor did he confiscate property from anyone. So by what crime are they justifying his murder? Al-Hussein was not apprehensive of getting killed. Rather, he desires to set the proof against them in front of history and the future generations. And this is a proof we can use today to convict those killers who are represented in front of you in the defendant seats. Al-Hussein has prepared that proof for us since a century and a half ago. None of them were able to provide him an answer, which in itself stands as a proof against them in front of Allah and in front of all humanity. After he said the proof against them, Al-Hussein recorded by his words an eternal stand that is a great lesson for every free honorable person who rejects lowliness, humiliation, oppression, and aggression, regardless of how heinous is the aggression and the number of aggressors, and despite the lack of supporters and scarcity of helpers, and regardless of the results and sacrifices. So he refuses to surrender to falsehood, misguidance, tyranny, corruption, oppression, and the dictatorship of rulers who have deviated from the right path. When Al-Hussein became certain that fighting was inevitable, he addressed his companions and family members, sympathizing with them, recommending to them patience, and encouraging them to fight. He said to them, You witness the existing state of affairs. The life is changed, its evil advanced, and its good has retreated. Now what is left of it is like little sediment that has remained in a pot. Do you not see that righteousness is abandoned, while no one forbids falsehood? So let a true believer desire the return to his Lord, for I do not see death now but happiness, and life with oppressors but torture. The third defendant, Umar ibn Sa'd, mobilized his troops in preparation to fight Al-Hussein, and he organized them in groups. They were approximately 30,000 fighters, so they surrounded Al-Hussein from all sides while he is in the middle with only 70 of his companions in addition to his family members, women and children. Then al-Hussein went out from between his companions and stood in front of the enemy, and he spoke to them for the very last time. He then told them, "Woe be to you, O bunch of people! When we answered your desperate call for support and came to you ready to fulfill our obligation, then you turned your swords against us and brought the fire of mischief settled by you and your enemy. You then became a force against your guardian in the hands of your enemy. You did that without any justice, this enemy widespread between you, or a hope you have in this regime except that is forbidden by Allah. You made that change in your position without any wrong we did or deviation from Islam. Woe be to you! If you disliked us, then let us go. You prepare for a fight without careful thinking. You rushed against us like birds to its food like butterflies. Shame on you! You are supporting the oppressors of the Ummah, and you are disregarding the Book of Allah. You are the whispers of the devil. You are the gang of sins. You are the changer of the divine book and the eliminator of the Sunnah, traditions of the Prophet. You are the killer of prophets, their progeny and exterminators of the guardian's household, and you are falsely claimer of parenthood to an illegitimate child, and you are bringing harm to believers and widespread the message of misguidance through anti-Islamic leaders who nullify the Quran. You support Ibn Harb and his followers to fail us. Yes, I swear by Allah, treason is a well-known trait in you. You were raised on it, and you inherited it generation after generation. It covered your hearts and your chests until you became the worst supporters of the enemy of Allah and the tyrants. Curse of Allah be upon those who return back on their oath and do not respect their agreement after confirmation. You made Allah be a witness upon you. You are those people. Verily, the illegitimate son of his father was also an illegitimate son too. Ibn Ziyad, offer us only two choices, either the sword of humiliation, and no way that we accept humiliation. Allah, His Prophet, good ancestors, purified mothers, and dignified souls, which preferred an honorable death over obeying tyrants. All of them reject that for us. I have warned you and done my duty. I shall proceed with this family, despite the lack of supplies and the treason of supporters. Then al-Hussein said, Where is Umar ibn Sa'd? Call for me Umar. He was called, and al-Hussein said to Ibn Sa'd, the third defendant, O Umar, you want to kill me, and you claim that the illegitimate son of the illegitimate father will appoint you as the governor on all race state? By Allah, you will never enjoy it ever. This is a promised covenant, so do whatever you want to do, for you will not enjoy after me in the life of this world or in the hereafter. It is as if I envision you. It is as if I envision your head to be raised on a stick in Al-Kufa, and the kids take it as an aim for their shots. In these final words, al-Hussein summarized the whole situation, its causes, and how it has ended up to the confrontation due to oppression, betrayal, greed, deceit, breaking of covenants, and fear from the oppressive tyrant. Once again, al-Hussein eloquently expresses his rejection to dishonor, humiliation, weakness, oppression, and paying allegiance to an oppressor. He prefers an honorable death over the obedience of an oppressor. He insists on continuing the struggle of dignity, honor, and truth, despite the absence of support. the great number of enemy and lack of support from the people. Furthermore, al-Hussein confirms to the third defendant, Ibn Sa'd, that he will not gain what he wished from fighting him, and that Allah will take revenge from him. He said that to Ibn Sa'd to give him a chance to reconsider his position. But instead, Ibn Sa'd became outraged and ordered his forces to march, and he advanced his flag. Then he charged his arrow and his bow and threw it while saying,
"Testify in the front of Governor Ibn Ziyad that I am the first one to shoot."
After hearing this statement from the third defendant, can anyone claim that he refused fighting, or that he is not responsible, or that he was simply obeying the orders of his supreme commander? Doesn't this statement from him stand as a strong proof that he was among the first who competed to attain the pleasure of his masters by carrying out this heinous mission, even if the price was the bloodshed of innocent women, children, elderly, sick, and a small group of helpless men? This statement of Ibn Sa'd points clearly to his guiltiness, as we request the court to add this to the record. Of course, after the commander threw his arrow, the rest of the army threw their arrows at one shot, and most of al-Hussein's companions fell down, as some were killed and others were injured as a result of this heavy attack, and the fighting officially began. Chief Justice, court is adjourned today, and we will resume tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thank you. Court is dismissed. The first new conference. The first new conference of this historical trial took place after the conclusion of the 6th court session at the big conference hall, reserved specifically for this purpose. We entered the hall with exactly 3 p.m., along with a big number of journalists and correspondents from all over the world who came to cover this unique and thrilling event, which increases in excitement every day. We had requested for these new conferences with the prosecution and the defense representatives to speak to them directly about the case, but our request was postponed for different reasons until we were finally notified of this first news conference with the assurance that it will not be the last. The hall was crowded, and after a little while, 2 of the prosecutor's assistants entered and requested everyone to keep quiet, and for the questions to be related only to the case, while reserving the right of the prosecution to reject answering any question which may affect the case proceeding or the evidences presented so far or has yet to be presented. Silence prevailed. Then that awe-inspiring prosecutor, who was the talk of everyone, entered with his neat, attractive, and humble appearance as light radiated from his face. He stood in front of the podium. Then he said in a calm, humble, and respectful voice, "Prosecutor, I thank you all for your attendance today, and I have about 30 minutes only to take your questions and answer them. I request that these questions be brief, not redundant. The first question," and he pointed to one of the correspondents. "Go ahead." Correspondent: What is your opinion regarding the court proceeding so far? Are you satisfied with it? Prosecutor: We believe that the trial is proceeding very well so far. The Chief Justice of the court is conducting his job in a very professional and adept way, and he gives a fair opportunity for everyone to present his case. We are satisfied with their progress so far, and we believe that we are moving slowly but with steady steps towards establishing the guilt of the 5 defendants. Go ahead.
Do you think the judges and the jurors are somehow sympathetic to your case? And do you feel that they are following you carefully and understanding what you're communicating? In other words, do you feel a connection between you and them?
Yes, without a doubt. In fact, we often observe emotional reactions, sadness and anger, clear in their faces. I'm sure that they are following the sequence of events with all concentration and attention as it is expected from them.
Do you feel that they are leaning towards the guilty verdict? And are they all as you described? I don't know whether they're leaning towards a guilty verdict or not, and I think it is too early for us to conjecture on that. And there are a lot more facts and evidences that have yet to be presented. We believe that everyone is focusing on following the events of the case. Go ahead. What is your assessment on the performance of the defense team so far? And do you feel that they are a foe to you whom you fear and are on your guard? I will not comment on the performance of the defense. However, they carry out their job in a professional manner and due to the nature of their role. They are a foe to us, of course. We do not fear them. However, we stand against their trials or belittle and invalidate all evidences we are presenting. Go ahead. This is the first time that the prosecutor takes on a historical case, which took place hundreds of years ago. I personally had thought that this task was impossible, but honestly today I say that you have proved by your unique performance that the impossible have become possible and within reach. We bear witness that you are the pioneer in this field and you will become part of history by this work. My question to you is, how do you find this challenging mission to be, and how do you prepare for it? What is your perspective regarding the establishment of historical court tribunal in the future? Thank you for your comments. In reality, the mission is tough and challenging since there are no living witnesses, and we can only depend on historical witnesses represented in different history books. This requires careful collection of facts, which is a high degree of authenticity, as well as correlation of the facts together, so that they are presented as strong, irrefutable, and incriminating evidence. We believe that we have presented a paradigm which can be followed in the future historical court tribunals. The goal here is to fill the earth with justice and fairness after it was filled with oppression and tyranny. We take pride and honor in being the pioneer in this effort and an example and in the forefront in this field. This is our role and we thank God that He chose us for this responsibility. Go ahead. Are you comfortable with the security measures and organization of this event? Yes, we are very comfortable with, and we would like to take this opportunity to direct our thanks to the organizers of the court proceedings, and we express our utmost appreciation of their hard work in conducting the court sessions in this honorable forum till now. Go ahead. The mic's working? The mic's working? The mic's... hello? We sometimes notice your emotional engagement in the events of this case such that we often see tears in your eyes and detect sadness in your voice. Isn't that an odd observation from a prosecutor who is simply carrying out his job? And is that reaction intended to influence the judges and jurors? Or is there another reason for it? The tragedies which inspired in Karbala are the source of great misery and pain for all those who love and support truth, justice, goodness, and humanity. All of that was represented in the character of Imam al-Hussein. The barbaric and aggressive attack on him is in essence an attack on all the values of truth, justice, goodness, and humanity. We do not deny that we are personally affected by this case for reasons which I prefer not to share, and it is out of our will. It is absolutely not meant to affect or influence the judges or jurors. Our personal feelings regarding this case is what made us take on this mission and the role of prosecution, as we hope to reach to the conviction of the defendants by the end of this trial. Go ahead. With all due respect to the personality of al-Hussein, do you not see that he was mistaken to subject himself to confrontation with this huge army and expose himself to harm while he was all alone in that estranged state? Sir, it seems that you have not been following the events of this case as we have presented with its supporting evidence. I hope that the jurors are not also asking the same questions you have posed. Indeed, al-Hussein was forced to go out as he was prescribed, and his head was sought for any price. Thus, he did not expose himself, rather he was forced to this confrontation. He did not leave to al-Kufa except after he received their letters promising to protect him and his family. However, they betrayed him under the pressure and terrorism of Ibn Ziyad,
to verify that you may listen to the following statement of Al-Hussein. They will not leave me alone until they kill me. When they do so, Allah will send upon them those who would humiliate and disgrace them such that they become the most inferior of nations. And listen to him saying, Bani Umayyad confiscated my property, and I was patient. They cursed me, and I was patient. Then they sought to shed my blood, so I escaped. From this, it is clear that Al-Hussein was forced to have this confrontation and did not seek it. Go ahead.
The defense team was supposed to also hold a news conference right after your news conference. However, we were suddenly told that their news conference would be cancelled. Do you have an explanation for that?
No. And you may direct that question to them when you see them. I will stop here and thank you. Thank you all. See you next time soon, God willing. Assalamu alaikum.